Fresh crisis hits Nigeria's Labour Party's National Treasurer, Mrs. Oluchi Opara, and National Chairman, Julius Abure, bicker over 3.5 billion naira party funds. Court sets aside interim order restraining Austin Agada from parading himself as chairman of the All Progressives Congress in Benue State. PDP governors hold at the Oyo State Governors Lodge in Abuja. Well, those are interesting headlines. Let's turn our gaze outside Nigeria. Parliamentary rights watchdog says the British government's plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda is, quote, fundamentally incompatible with UK's human rights obligations. Tempers flare in Zimbabwe's Citizens Coalition for Change, its political party, as Chimasa's Blue Movement picks up pace. Well, tonight on Politics HQ, we're asking a question. Is Nigeria's constitution under threat? Well, human rights group HURIWA is calling on the National Assembly to, in their words, stop wasting money on constitutional amendments, arguing that those amendments weaken the document. Should we be amending the Constitution ever so frequently? And what are the risks or benefits? My name is Kofi Bartels. Politics HQ starts now. Tonight, we're diving into a heated debate about Nigeria's constitution. Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria is calling on the National Assembly of Nigeria, Senate and House of Reps, to stop amending the document. Now, HURIWA is arguing that the frequent amendment amounts to a waste of money and also weakens the Nigerian constitution. But is HURIWA right? And what are the alternatives being proposed? Guests on the program tonight to discuss this: Emmanuel Onwubiko is the national coordinator of the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria. Demola Olarewaju is the special assistant to the former Vice President of Nigeria, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, on digital media strategy. Alesta Wilcox is the former chairman of ICAN, that's Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Lagos and District Society. Demola is with us here in the studio while the rest join us via video link. Gentlemen, good evening to you, and thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Kofi. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, let's begin by looking at the cost of amending the Constitution. We've been hearing a lot of criticism about the cost of governance in Nigeria. Demola, starting with you, do you see constitutional amendment as an expensive exercise?
Well, thank you, Kofi. I mean, for me, amending the Constitution is a part of the democratic process. What we have with this present political ruling class, I don't see it going as far-reaching enough to address the root cause of the problem, which is that Nigeria is presently running a skewed federalism and that the federal government is too big. In the lead up to the last elections, the various candidates pushed forward various ideas, and one of the key ones that that we pushed forward at the time was that the government is too big; it needs to be shrunken, and to do that will require the process of a constitutional amendment, series of constitutional amendments. So if these constitutional amendments that are presently being done, if it was being done to set Nigeria on the right path, then I would agree with the ruling party. But it is not being done to do that. In many cases, for instance, you even find that the amendments are being done to increase the size of the federal government. And I think that's unfair to the Nigerian people.
When you say to increase the size of the federal government, how do you mean?
Well, so for example, just recently, and this went without a constitutional amendment, one of the examples of how the federal government creates a bigger bureaucracy is the federal government setting up a committee last week where the memo was leaked. I forget right now what that particular committee was supposed to address, but it was, the money was 1.5 billion was proposed, was cut to 1 billion at the office of the SGF, and then the presidency approved 500 million naira. We saw that memo. that's going to be another government committee. Again, there's another one that they brought, at when I think even before the ministers themselves were selected, headed by Taiwo Oyedele, the tax reforms committee. These are things that people within the civil service bureaucracy of the federal government, these are things that a department there can handle. Okay, but this present government insists that they want to set up something, and that particular committee on tax reforms is going to run for a year. It has about 76 members, all who will be living on the expense of government and increasing our wage bill. Of course, they will say that the committee is not going to be a permanent one, but I know from experience what will happen at the end of 1 year is that there will be a proposal that this tax reform committee should become an agency of government and be domiciled with the federal government or with the presidency, and that is how government keeps on expanding and expanding. So I think, what the constitutional amendments should be targeted at is cutting off dead weight from the federal government, relieving that government of burden, running a lean government, and not, making the federal government even bigger.
All right. So you're saying the process itself is not expensive, but the outcome is expensive.
For me, the process is not expensive in terms of what it is aimed at. The process of constitutional amendment it's a good thing because the constitution is a living document, a document that is supposed to guide, and it has to take care of existing realities. So if the amendments of the constitution were being done with a mindset of development, with a mindset of moving Nigeria forward by relieving the federal government of so many of its duties, then that's fair. But because, what I'm saying is that the outcome does not justify the expenditure that is currently being put on it. But it is an important process in our democracy. However, in this instance, the outcome simply does not justify the huge amount that is budgeted for these processes most of the time.
All right. We'll be joined by the Executive Director of the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria very shortly, the National Coordinator, that is Emmanuel Onwubiko, so he can tell us some more about this. But interesting to know, talking about the cost of governance, under Muhammad Buhari, he seems to be the one who is on top of the Constitution Review League Table, or Amendment, League Table, as a total of 21 alterations were carried out under his administration as at April 2023. That's just before he left office. 21 alterations. We don't have time to go into all of them. But in one particular day, he signed in 16 new alterations at a swoop on March 2023. That's just before he left. I want to bring in Emmanuel Onwubiko to join us now. Mr. Onwubiko, good evening. Thank you very much for your time. Just how much, when HURIWA says the frequent amendment of Nigeria's constitution is a cost and a high cost to the government, how much are we looking at? Emmanuel Onwubiko, can you hear me, please? All right. We'll get back to Emmanuel Onwubiko. But Demola Olarewaju, is this, now, apart from the cost of running the various ministries, departments, agencies, committees, some could argue that some of these committees that are being set up are not creations of the Constitution, appendages of the Constitution. For instance, the Presidential Committee on Tax Reform and Fiscal Policy is not a constitutional matter. It could also be argued that the committee, the minimum wage committee, which is what I think you're trying to refer to, is also not a constitutional creation. But these are creations of government because of the policy of government, while the minimum wage committee is the creation of the minimum wage law, or act, sorry. But for other things, like issues to do with the exclusive list versus the concurrent list. I think one of the things Buhari talked about or signed into law was states being able to manage a railway, and so on and so forth. Are these too expensive? Do they create an extra cost for government? The ideas, the guiding ground norm of the country.
I think there's a difference, and I'm sure that I was really hoping to hear from Emmanuel Onwubiko, because I agree with a lot of what HURIWA is saying. The aspect of constitutional amendment, again, must be a question of weighing the outcome versus the money expended, on the process of reforms. For example, I'm a federalist. I believe very strongly in federalism. I believe in restructuring, and one of those things is, shrinking the exclusive list and moving more things to the concurrent list. So this railway example, for instance, is brilliant. I mean, this is one of the laws that Nigeria definitely needs. Another one is the example of the electricity reforms bill, where states can now generate and trade in their own electricity. Some states are, trying to domesticate that law now and move towards electricity generation, distribution, and aspects that, because there are still a lot of aspects of it where the federal government is still holding on to the exclusive powers. And that's where I think the problem comes from. The federal government insists on holding the bulk of power in our federalism. That's an aberration in a true federalism. Those of us who are true federalists believe that there must be sweeping reforms, and there's no way to get to those sweeping reforms without, delving deeply into the issue of constitutional amendments. Huge parts of the constitution must be amended in order to go back to that original structure that Nigeria was, where, the constituent units were the ones that had the higher balance of power and not the federal government as it is today. So what we have is a federal government that is too big and trying to manage too many things within its own purview, and those things are the things that, increase the cost of governance. So you have that problem, and then you also have the problem of the political elite, which is a political group that felt that, they have not been in power for a very long time. And, well, if you like, some of them feel that, they are entitled at this time to plunder government funds. And that's why sometimes you have even the Senate doing whatever they want, calling for probes, calling for public sittings and so on and so forth, and increasing the wage bill of the federal government at the end of the day. So I think, it is a deep systemic problem. It's a problem that must be resolved. It will be resolved by constitutional amendments, but presently the constitutional amendments that it will be resolved by must be things geared towards restructuring the structure of Nigeria towards a truly federalist state.
Okay. The extant Nigerian constitution has been altered 5 times, from what I gather, twice under Umar Musa Yar'Adua and 3 times under former President Muhammadu Buhari. But there are 2 things involved here: constitutional review and constitutional amendment, which we'll look at as we go. And I'm told we have Emmanuel Onwubiko, the man in the eye of the storm, the center of attraction tonight, as far as this story is concerned, with us. Ms. Onwubiko, thank you very much for your time. You were talking about the cost of governance, which your organization is highlighting as one of the reasons why the National Assembly should refrain from frequently amending the Nigerian constitution. How much has it cost Nigeria for the 5 alterations so far, from Umar Musa Yar'Adua to Buhari? Emmanuel? Emmanuel Onwubiko, can you hear me, please? All right. Let's go to Alesta Wilcox, whom I introduced earlier. Alesta, are you there? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I came in a bit late. It was,
no, not a problem at all. Thank you for your time. Do you agree that... Issues. Yeah, thank you, Brad. Do you agree that the constitutional review process, and indeed the frequent review of the Constitution by the National Assembly, is an expensive venture exercise that Nigeria cannot afford to undergo?
Let me say this. Let me thank the other colleague that was there. Let me say that unfortunately in this country, patriotism does not count in anything we do. Rather, personal interest and pocket politics and pocket infrastructure, according to the term made popular by the former Ekiti State Governor, stomach infrastructures. I think I call it pocket infrastructure, is what holds sway in most of the things that we do. You will agree with me, like you pointed out, the Deputy Senate President, Ike Ekweremadu, has chaired 2 constitutional review amendment committee. And while they are doing that at the Senate, they are also having a similar body at the House of Representatives. And at the end of the day, it just amounts to nothing. So there's no problem with talking about reforming our constitution. Yes, as at the time, although I don't have issue with what the constitution says, yes, a lot of people might disagree with me. If our constitution is implemented, the problem is that we hold our constitution in breach. Even if the current provisions are implemented with all sense of patriotism, I think we'll not be talking about all these frequent amendments. But however, the National Assembly has seen that as a cash cow, has seen that process as a cash cow, and every administration, every Senate, or every National Assembly, the level of National Assembly, they set up a committee to review the Constitution. And this, for me, is the most unpatriotic act of members of National Assembly, because at the end of the day, it amounts to nothing, absolute nothing. Even the ones that have been signed, to what extent has it been implemented? So we need to get serious as a country and really decide, because unfortunately, the people that govern us today are part of the problem. I don't have a problem with politicians, since, don't get me wrong, there must be some people that must be there, but the conduct that they exhibit leaves much to be desired. Look, we have one of the lazy and lousiest National Assembly. Okay, now your picture is showing it. It's showing National Assembly. Can you imagine how they are sitting? Now compare that to the British House of Parliament. Now compare that to the US Congress. How even the sitting arrangement, does it show sign of seriousness in doing serious business? So we have a problem where people do little and take out so much. Yes, we must have the National Assembly, but can we compute their work rate to whatever resources that is allocated to them and that they go on with? I think that's the crux of where Nigerians are having issues.
Okay.
So we must talk.
So you're saying, Alesta, that these members of the National Assembly, be it the Senate or House of Reps, are only interested in lining their pockets, are only interested in taking some allowances and all that. But how is that possible when the process of, I want you to just paint the picture for us, because the process of amending the Constitution is quite clear, as encapsulated or captured in Section 9, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, which talks about the process for amending the Constitution for fifth majority voting of all members of each house of the National Assembly. So we're not talking about a review here, we're talking about amendment. They sit down and they say, all those in favor say aye. All those against say nay. Then, of course, you have the various state houses of assembly of not less than 2/3 in all the states in Nigeria. All right, not less than 2/3 in all the states in Nigeria. So the resolutions must be passed in at least 24 of those states. So if they're sitting down to say all those in favor say aye, all those against say nay in the 36 state houses of assembly, then they go to the House of Reps, all those in favor say aye, all those against say nay in the House of Reps, all the state federal constituencies. Then the central districts, the representatives of the central districts, all those in favor say aye, those against say nay. Wherein lies the cost that we're talking about here?
You see, unfortunately, it's not as easy as saying aye and nay. If you look at the budget of National Assembly, in most years, you discover not less than 10 billion is appropriated for constitutional review. And I just mentioned that former Senator Atiku, who served as Deputy Senate President for 3 consecutive National Assembly life, I think from the 6th National, I mean from the 5th, I can't remember, either 5th or 6th. We're on the 9th now. So from the 6th, 7th, and 8th National Assemblies, he held sway as deputy, 5th, 6th, and 7th.
5th and 6th.
He held sway as the deputy Senate President. And he has been in charge of constitutional review. And every year, they budget at least 10 billion for that process. And it's not just sitting to say hi. Now, they will tell you, they are going for consultation, they are going for town hall meetings, they are going for consultations at geopolitical levels. They will ask for memoranda. They will sit down. They will have allowance. They will have refreshment. They will have travel costs. So all these are what's embedded in the process. Now, it's not just the sitting down to say aye and nay is after the process has been, after the so-called convergence of ideas, and then they have write a report and bring to the House. Now, as far as I'm concerned, yes, it's a legitimate process because it's provided in the Constitution. But in the implementation, how legitimate is it in the implementation? What is the motive behind such frequent? Look, the U.S. Constitution has only undergone how many amendments, and it's as little as what you can put in your back pocket. It has undergone just how many amendments, and so these are not things that are casting. So, but unfortunately, like I said, the work rate of National Assembly, whenever I'm seeing their sitting arrangement, it doesn't resonate to me as persons who are serious. Then when you compare them to the British House, the British Parliament, or the U.S. Congress, or some other parliaments across the world, the way they sit, look at that. Can they be sitting in a classroom, kind of, and say you are doing legitimate business? So they look so relaxed. They look so jovial. Some of them are sleeping. And so only when it comes to the eye and the, although, yes, I agree that most of the work is done at the committee level. Yes, that is always there.
Okay, but Alesta, I want us to quickly go on a break, but when we come back, because I want us to be sure about what we're talking about, the review of the Constitution as a whole, where, for instance, we have the recent constitutional review process where the members of the Assembly, National Assembly, went from zone to zone. So we'll talk about that when we come back from a quick break right here. For those of you watching at home, please stay with us. Welcome back. Our guest tonight, Emmanuel Onwubiko, is the National Coordinator of Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria. We have also joining us via video link, former chairman of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and Lagos and District Society, Alesta Wilcox. And in the studio with us, we have Demola Olarewaju, who is the SA Digital Media Strategy to Nigeria's former Vice President, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar. We're looking at a call by the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria on Nigeria's National Assembly to seize the frequent amendment of Nigeria's constitution. They're citing several reasons, including the cost of governance and also some other reasons we'll look at as well. For instance, they're looking at waste of money and also the fact that it weakens the Nigerian constitution. It weakens and waters down the constitution. They're saying that a constitution should be a timeless document that is that has a sanctity that is preserved, that isn't touched anyhow. It should be preserved and its sanctity should be revered, and that's what they're looking at as well. We'll look at all that as we go on. Before we went on the break, we're looking at the cost of this constitutional amendment. I want to go to Emmanuel. Do we have Emmanuel with us, Onwubiko? Emmanuel, can you hear me, please? All right. We don't have him. Demola, you heard what Alesta said. If we look at the constitutional amendments or alterations to the extant constitution, we've had twice under two presidents, and it's been done 5 times. Twice under Omar Musa Yar'Adua before he passed on, and 3 times under Buhari. The last one Buhari signed into law was in 2023 in March. And I just want to go over some of them. For instance, bill to change the name of Afikpo North and Afikpo South local government areas. Bill to change the name of Kunchi local government area. I mean, there were some mistakes in the constitution, of course, and the people from these areas just wanted these things changed. Bill to change the names of Egbado North and Egbado South, a local government area. Bill to correct the name of Atikbo. These are all, I'm not going to go into details. Bill to provide for the financial independence of state houses of assembly and the judiciary. The local governments were there, but the houses of assembly rejected it. A bill to regulate the first session and inauguration of members elect of the national and state houses of assembly. There's a lot, criminal code, penal code, and so many other things there. Some of them are just in terms of wording. So I remember that sometime in 2020, 2021, we had the zonal hearings for the review of the Nigerian Constitution. And the Senate had its own zonal delineation. The House of Representatives had its own zonal delineation. And they grouped states into zones. And for instance, one of the houses, I can't remember which, had its own hearing in Port Harcourt, where I worked at the time. And states in that zone were all expected to bring all their issues to Port Harcourt for public hearing and a public forum. So I want to talk about that in relation to the cost. And if you feel that we're having such an exercise, how can it be done to reduce the cost?
Well, I think, like I said, for me, the things that they focused on are mainly not fundamental issues. Things like, renaming Egbado North, renaming Egbado South, Afikpo North. I mean, those things are important to the people of those constituencies, but those things do nothing to radically change the structure of Nigeria, which is where the actual problem is coming from, that the federal government is too big, it needs to be cut to size. What we've had, is mostly an academic exercise. And like Mr. Wilcox pointed out, it is mainly to, just to satisfy the legislature's race to catch up with what they feel that the executive is also getting, and they do so with less scrutiny. That, ministers are also doing these things. We can also create avenues for ourselves to also, feather our own pockets. A truly representative Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and a truly representative House of Representatives of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will not need to travel around the entire states of the country to know what the people are saying or to know what the people want in the Constitution. I mean, it boggles the mind that every time they want to review the Constitution, they embark on this thing and they go around, geopolitical zones. Of course, why not go state by state then, or why not go local by local government by local government?
But you all are complaining about the cost. You're saying it's too expensive.
That's what I'm saying. That
and to cut down costs, they decided to put it into zones. I'm saying
there's simply no point doing that, because the same people that you are going to meet, even in the zones, they voted for the senators, they voted for the House of Representative members, they voted for legislative, for State House of Assembly members. So if the State House of Assembly member does not know what they want, the House of Rep member does not know what they want, the Senator does not know what they want, to a point where everybody, the federal government apparatus, as far as legislative is concerned, has to return to those places, then it makes a mockery of the process. What needs to be done, is very clear to most Nigerians, and it can be done at the level of the Senate. So when they start these things and when they start, this junketing, some of us do not take those processes seriously. The last time that some of us feel that we had a truly progressive discussion about the future of Nigeria is the national confab of under Goodluck Jonathan in 2014. Before then, you had the time when it was done under President Olusegun Obasanjo, and that was truly representative. People felt, okay, we have a bicameral legislature, 360 members of the House of Rep, 109 members of the Senate, but that is not fully representative enough. Okay, let's have religious interests, let's have traditional rulers, let's have people from the media, let's have people from business community, from sports community, and so on and so forth. They increased it and made it that. So that process would then eventually go back. But to say that, and then you call for memoranda from various parts of the country. But when you start going around to the people, we have to ask that, do those people not have representatives? So for me, I think any government that is truly ready for a thorough process of constitutional review or a thorough process of producing a constitution that is, that enjoys the confidence and the faith of the Nigerian citizens, that process will be done at the federal level and not necessarily what is going on at this point.
Since you all, and I disagree with you, Demola, you said that you don't believe in such a process. And that may be where the problem lies. That people like yourself, who have a lot of brilliant ideas, do not even attempt to test the system. If you had attended any of those sessions and probably presented a memorandum for the review of the Nigerian Constitution that will probably have made it through, probably you would have seen that it worked because a lot of people came out and some of the things you are seeing, changing of names of local government, they matter to the peoples in these places.
So the point is this.
So if you never participated in this process and you saying you don't believe it works, well, you should have tested it.
In 2014, when there was a national confab,
yes.
When there was a national confab, I wrote position papers on behalf of several organizations that I belonged to. I contributed
Demola, that national
papers.
confab cost at least 10 billion naira
and these went
in 2014. 10 billion naira in 2014.
It went up to those places.
Demola,
Even till today,
where is the national confab report? 10 billion naira.
It's sitting there. It's sitting there in the office of the president. The Senate. No. So this is where the problem is. In 2014, there was a change of government. The government that changed should have taken that, dusted it up, and looked at the brilliant recommendations that were made there. But rather, what they did was consigned it. What they did was they consigned it to the dustbin of history. So. And then I want to do their own process all over again.
You are saying, sorry to interject, you are saying, and I'll go back to this session, but you're saying that we have a National Assembly, and we should not take this constitutional review process to the people to hear from them directly.
The people? Look, the Senate is representative of the people.
I want to learn. That we should, but you are still advocating that the National Conference was a good thing. Then again, they spent at least 10 billion naira in 2014. You're saying the constitutional amendment process is expensive, but you're also advocating for a national conference that was 10 billion naira.
Here's the difference
during the national conference. They were clamor. There was clamor that let the National Assembly do.
If you want to do a thorough constitutional reforms, that is the fact that we believe that the 1999 Constitution is not exactly a reflection of what Nigeria should be. It starts, when those of us who are pure federalists believe that constitution starts with a lie. It says that we, the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, haven't decided to live together as one indivisible and indissoluble nation. That's a lie. People have not agreed. And this is where the clamor for sovereign national conference came from. And the argument of that, is the federal puritanism argument that, look, even the 109 senators that did not enjoy the confidence of the people, which is where the argument now comes, which is where the counter, which is where the other side, hold on, let me make that point, that 109 senators, you have 109 senators who you claim were voted in by the people. If those people cannot know that the people of Egbeda North, Egbeda North and Egbeda South, they have only one House of Reps member. Egbeda North has a different House of Assembly member. Egbeda South has a different House of Assembly member. Same thing with Afikpo North, same thing with Afikpo South. If their House of Assembly member cannot take that problem to the House of Representatives member, to such a point where the entire Senate or a committee of the Senate has to visit the zone to know where the problem is, then we have a problem in our democracy.
You're clamoring, you're saying that this constitutional review process that held a couple of years ago, it was too expensive and it's a waste of taxpayer money. It's increasing the cost of governance. The National Assembly is there. They can sit down.
Which I don't know. What I'm saying is the one of 2014 was more cost effective
I'm driving
for Nigeria.
at a point, and that the National Assembly can vote for it. But you are still saying that the National Assembly is not qualified enough to make the changes we need in terms of restructuring and all that we need to have other people come in for national conference. That is still expensive.
Now, it's expensive.
So it seems you're
when I started...
But please hold the thought. I'll come to you. I'm sorry, Demola. I'm sorry. I'll come to the Chief. But I want to bring in back Alesta. Alesta, where do you stand on this? Do you also agree that the National Assembly is empowered and can just sit down in a place and come up with these ideas to review the Nigerian Constitution rather than go around to the people in the various states?
Look, and I've said this and I'm repeating it, we play too much in this country. And like I said, and I'm not apologetic about it, most of the actions taken, sometimes at the level of government, is self-seeking and just for what, most of them, I'm not saying all, it's just for the financial aggrandizement. And I've just given a pictorial of funds being appropriated and how Ike Ekwuremadu of the Senate has chaired about 3 or thereabout constitutional review committees. And if these things were truly effective vis-a-vis the cost incurred, I think we should not be still speaking what we are speaking now. Now, like Demola, I'm sure I can say that it was an essay to the former Vice President. I don't know if when he was in government or when he was out of government, so he must have been very close to government. So if as at the time that, like he said, if the people of Egbado South and Egbado North, who as a representative do not know that that place needs to be changed to Yewa South and Yewa North, and if to take the gamut of the Senate or House of Rep to visit Ogun State to have that discussion, then don't tell me it's a serious-minded process, because they have their representative. Now we don't need such junketing.
But Alesta, the process, the procedure. Alesta, I'm sorry, sir. The process, the procedure, even to introduce a bill, for instance, you have public hearings. Public hearings. These are public hearings. Which one did you attend, Alesta? Which of them did you go to? Did you participate in it for you to know it wasn't effective?
I was never invited to any.
The public was invited. There were adverts everywhere. Are you telling me you didn't?
And the question is, with the 3 so far done, now that excludes, okay, with the 5 that you have counted, which exclude the Jamboree National Conference of Jonathan administration and the talk shop of the Obasanjo administration, that is excluded.
Was that a waste of taxpayer money?
Review. Yes. So with all the 5 that was actually constitutional review, with the Jamboree of the Jonathan Constitutional Conference and the Jamboree of the Obasanjo talk shop, where are we today? We are still saying the same thing. My brother is still talking about devolution of power. My brother is still talking about cutting of the federal government and giving it to the state, which the states have clearly shown incapable of managing whatever resources that is given to them. And I don't know why we are still advocating that more resources should be given to the states.
Yeah.
When the states have displayed total incapacity.
But Alesta, the point I wanted you to address, the point I wanted to address is this. Even for a mere bill, a simple bill, to be passed by the National Assembly, you can have what you call public hearings. For this constitutional review process, they had zonal public hearings. And they said not everyone can fly to Abuja or drive all the way to Abuja from the different parts of the country. Let us make it easier for Nigerians to be part of the public hearings by taking these public hearings out of the National Assembly closer to them, which I think is an innovative idea. But you're saying it's a way they should have just sat down and just decided what to do.
No other country does.
The question is, what is the role? Now, this is a National Assembly process. What is the role of the senator that represents a third of the states, and House of Assembly member that in some states represent every local government? For instance, in Lagos State, you have a House of Assembly, a House of Rep member in every local government, and some local government like Surulere, Lagos Island has 2. So what is their role? So if there is a constitutional review, and these men who are in National Assembly, who are having a full-time work in National Assembly, cannot, or either at the committee level or at the floor or at the committee of whole, galvanize the position of their constituents, of their people. And then it will take now the same body to now go back to the people to ask them what they want. I think we're just making a mess and just looking for avenue to filter the scarce resources of the country. Because like I've said, don't get me wrong, every state has 3 senators. So in a zone, for instance, a zone like the Southwest with 6 states has 18 senators and countless national.
Alesta, because of time, I will go for a break. But was the 2014 National Conference a waste of taxpayer money?
Total jamboree waste.
All right, Demola, was it a waste of taxpayer money?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So we'll have that debate when we come back from the break.
Total corruption,
we'll have that debate.
And nothing.
We'll have that debate. All right, welcome back. Politics HQ tonight. Still looking at the the call by the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, a civil society organization based in Nigeria, of the National Assembly to reduce the number of times it reviews the Nigerian Constitution. With me in the studio, Demola Olarewaju, SA Digital Media Strategy to Nigeria's former Vice President, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar. And joining us via video link, Alesta Wilcox, former Chairman of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Lagos and District Society. Demola, let's go to some more things, and Mr. Wilcox, let's go to some more things that HURIWA talked about. Mr. Olarewaju, do you think that the Constitution is amended too often and that the frequent amendments we're having are watering down the Constitution? Not every amendment, or let's say extant amendment to the extant Constitution, has gone through the process that we had a couple of years ago. So do you think that it's watering down the Constitution?
For me, I think, each of it deserves to be looked at, one by one. The Egbado example, for instance, it is ridiculous, that 24 years, about 24 to 25 years after the Constitution was promulgated in 1999, the people of Egbado North were still not properly identified, and it took only, the recent amendments for that to be rectified. The same thing with Afikpo. For you to have those kind of mistakes in your constitution, then surely that such a document does not needs to constantly be amended. So, but that said, for me, the ultimate difference is in the outcome. What is the end result? Does this process of constitutional amendment, does it bring development to Nigerians? Does it enhance the quality of lives that Nigerians are having? The verdict might still be out on some of those things. I think we can give 3 examples. The first is this railway law that was just signed. How are states going to take advantage of that in the years going forward? The same thing with the Electricity Reforms Bill Act now. How are states going to take advantage of that going forward? The Electoral Reforms Act also, how is our democracy enhanced by reason of that? So I think, it is something that should be looked at on a case-by-case basis. The Constitution for me is not a static document. And I think, I wish HURIWA was here to speak to that, because as Democrats, we believe, especially the 1999 Constitution, which is a constitution on the basis of which people contested elections did not even know, what the Constitution was going to be. In other words, Olusegun Obasanjo emerged as president, governors of different states emerged as governors without knowing what their roles were going to be under democracy. And so it was only when they came in, when power came to civilian rule, that they needed to start tweaking with the Constitution. So that Constitution will always require tweaking, because of the various gaffes that are inherent in the Constitution. But even in advanced countries, the process of constitutional amendment is regular, is sustained. Right. There's a process for it.
Okay.
And to point out, the Constitution itself prescribes the way in which it can be amended. Yeah. And why it says that? It says that the Senate. I just wanted to make this point, Kofi. The Senate will approve it. 2/3 of the Senate, 2/3 of the Federal House of Reps, and the State House of Assemblies. So there's no need, but our lawmakers insist on, doing that jamboree all over the country.
All right, so we need to look for ways to make it less expensive. Back to you, Alesta. Do you think that the Constitution, the frequent amendments, twice under Yar'Adua, 3 times under Buhari, the last one is signed 16 amendments, you think that is too frequent and is watering down the Constitution?
Well, the U.S. amendment has gone to how many amendments in 200-something years? And the Nigerian, in 24 years, going to 25, we've had this number of amendments. And that shows the fact that, yes, like my brother said, there was something fundamentally wrong with the Constitution. Now, remember, this Constitution is it's an offshoot of the 1979 Constitution. Unfortunately, in 1979, people are still sensible and there are still patriotism in the land. So whatever defect that was in that 1979 Constitution, people never really really went into it and started finding faults. But they operated it, although it was a short spell of democratic life before the military struck again. But maybe because this time around, people are wiser, are more unpatriotic, So every line, it seems to be read in with a different meaning. So it begins to have regular amendment. I think for me, it's going to at some point water totally the import of the Constitution. So we need to watch how many amendments we take through and how frequent this amendment is, because it is expensive. Very expensive to amend because of the cost implications.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alesta.
A lot of people line their pockets so much.
Because of time. I must point out that not all the amendments have gone through the process of zonal public hearings. I mean, we look at Yar'Adua. I don't think he had a zonal public hearing when he amended the Constitution.
He did.
Yeah.
No.
To reduce, to make INEC a first-line charge in the consolidated revenue fund. I don't know if you had even the not too young to run bill, which reduced the age of the president and other public officers, from 40 to 35. I don't think they went round for hearings.
They did not need to go because the Constitution prescribes that you do not need to go. It's our lawmakers themselves that decide to carry themselves for this jamboree.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure having both of you, Demola Olarewaju and of course Alesta Wilcox. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. My name is Kofi Bartels. We'll be back tomorrow with more on Politics HQ. Good night.